when someone asked me to be a DP on that first job, I was like, yeah, absolutely. I don't think, I think when opportunity comes, you have to attack it. You have to basically, especially in this business, I don't think you get a lot of opportunities more than once. Until the world gives you a red light, just consider they're all green lights. Go until you get a red light. That's kind of how I've gotten to where I've gotten.
A garden of pure ideology.
Yeah, just your typical Super Bowl car ad.
Or a hilarious beer ad.
Break was over 15 minutes ago, Mitch!
I think you're the best ever.
Look out. Back up. Where are you?
You're in the bush.
Well, how am I supposed to know? I've never been there.
I don't always drink beer, but when I do...
Wanna play Bob?
I think we're going to be here a while.
Hey everyone, today we're talking to Director of Photography, Sean Patrick Kirby. Kirby was kind enough to be my first interview for the podcast, so due to some technical issues and beginner mistakes on my part, we started a little late in our conversation. As with all discussions right now, this was done remotely via Zoom, so you'll occasionally hear some of that wonky internet audio sound. If you don't know Sean Kirby yet, I think you should. Something about his work, his cinematography, the photographs he takes, to me, is special. He's so smart. He knows so much about filmmaking and photography, and I think he's the real deal and a true artist. This episode is just a glimpse of who Kirby is and what he knows, and I totally think you should look him up and follow his work, especially if you're a director, producer, or ad agency, because I think you'll be seeing his name in the future, and you'll either be glad you were a part of his journey, or you'll wish you were. Okay, here we go. Seems like the next 6 months, hopefully not longer, is gonna be the ultimate trial run. I mean, it's really unfortunate that so many bad things have come out of it, but the only thing people can do right now is remote development and pre-production. So everyone's getting a big practice run on, is this gonna work? I don't know, I'm gonna assume it's gonna make productions more precise even, because we haven't even mentioned how complex shooting is gonna become, which is probably gonna require even more planning.
I would think. Yes.
I'm hearing they're going to need to minimize crews and get more talented people who can handle more.
But I think you're right. I think it could be oddly a really great thing, because we could get back to the idea of pre-production. Get to be a place where you're operating a little bit more like Kubrick, where you have less amount of people, but you have more days, because you have to, you can't move fast if you don't have a lot of people. So you got to spend the money somewhere else. So
I feel bad. It's a dream to me, because obviously being someone, I'm usually more involved with pre-production and development and stuff. So I mean, what you're saying is a fantasy like Candyland to me, where, directors and DPs and people are getting together and they're like, oh yeah, it's just like we planned before we got here.
A lot of times you get on some of these jobs where it's kind of a spray and pray mentality, right? Where it's just get a bunch of stuff, someone will figure it out later. I don't really like that. I don't think that that's efficient as far as from a lighting perspective or a storytelling perspective, from a post. It seems like a lot of time wasted. So if we can pick 4 things we want, let's get those 4 things. If we're ahead, then maybe we play and see if we can find some magic. And, I think that for that Portland, it was pretty specific, what they wanted to do and how we kind of lined it up and did it. It was kind of the closest thing I've had to feeling like I was shooting on film, because we would get the shot and I'm like, you want to do one more for safety? I mean, we've got 3 good ones. Let's do one more. Okay, cool. And then, you move on. And I think that is I'm oddly, I'm kind of I like that idea of a lot of planning, a lot of preparation. And then you just get in, you get your 4 shots, and then you're like, okay, let's do a couple, a little bit more. And then we can move on. Let's play. I don't know. It's maybe it is good for the better, but it seems like it's just going to take time until we're there again. So this one company I work for a lot are kind of in this weird new model of they're like an agency that has their own in-house production company.
Not as weird anymore.
I guess.
Seen that happening a lot.
Yeah. They have their stable of directors. They've got their post guys, then they have their producers. And it makes sense from a budgetary standpoint. It does make sense. I mean, it's definitely a lot different than in the commercial side of how I kind of came up through it. They're a lot more connected to the creative directors and It's the way that they write treatments is a little different because they're not technically bidding for things. They're just getting them based on the agency. And so the agency then allocates which director they want to use. Like all things, it's positive and negative. So you just roll the punches. And I've been able to make some really cool stuff with them. And the directors that I've worked with for them, they trust me, as well as the, a lot of the producers I've worked with have trust me as well. So that's good.
You live in Alabama, right?
Yes. For the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. What part?
I live in Birmingham. So it's kind of, it's pretty much the only like true metropolitan urban kind of area in the state. And I've lived here for, about 12 or 13 years now, I guess.
Yeah. So how's the industry there? I mean, you're working with people across the country. It sounds like you're not really restricted by being in Birmingham.
I don't work a lot here, even though I kind of, when I was cutting my teeth and coming up, I did do a lot of work here. It's just kind of like, why do we live here? What's the reason? What's the purpose? And I'll say, Birmingham is great. There is a pretty good little production hub here. There's some incredible technicians, some incredible artists that live here, that work in our business, that are, in different departments that are really great at their job, that really surprise a lot of people when they come into town. People that I have been in the trenches with, people that I've seen, I've worked long hours with. So it's kind of a little bit of a surprise. So I know there was a movie about to film when the pandemic shut it down. They were about to film. I actually ran into like the location manager and a couple of guys and girls that I knew that were working on it. I saw the talent, and it was Dolph Lundgren, and I was like, holy crap, that's Dolph Lundgren. What's he doing? Like it's just kind of weird. You're just like, I'm sitting having coffee with a director, and it's not New York, it's not LA, so seeing a celebrity is a little bit different because it's like, but you still, as someone in the business, you're like, oh, cool, yeah, whatever. And I'm having coffee, we're chatting, and here comes Dolph Lundgren walking by, and I was like, is that Ivan Drago? Does Ivan Drago just walk by me?
Yeah, it was so much easier in LA, where you just drive to the studio and go home. Yeah. And I know we were put up in hotels and apartments and stuff when we're filming out of town, but it seemed good. After working there, I kept telling people, I was like, man, if you're cool with it, if you're cool with moving, it's just easier here, especially with the studios and the industry's just been around for a long time. You don't deal with those obstacles of like a producer had to save money and got a local caterer, but they weren't quite ready to handle a full-size crew, and just the people's look on people's faces when you go into their house and you realize you recognize that look. You're like, yep, producer just told him it'd be a small crew, and now there's 120 people going through their house with muddy shoes, and they're freaking out with their 400-year-old home. And it's just,
as hard as it is to leave my kids behind and my wife behind, like there's something about you can really focus on the goal. You're like, you can really focus on the execution and like how you're going to do it. And there aren't as many, external factors. And also one of the weird things is I have several friends that are DPs that live in LA. They live in New York. They live all in between. And I always talk to them because, it's a question I have. Yeah. Hey, do you work as much in town as I would think you do? And for the most part, it feels like if you live in New York, you work in LA. If you live in LA, you work in New York. And so I'm like, well, what's, obviously I think after you make it to a certain level, that probably does change. But I think it is interesting to want it, to be like, I think this is where I want to go. And then you get there and then you're constantly going somewhere else,
Yeah. I think the conversation is way more complicated than it used to be.
It 100%. It's not easy.
Yeah. Like growing up, it was really easy to just say, cool, you want to go big, you got to go to LA or New York. If you're okay with other things, then don't. And now between pandemic life and people eyeballing a potential recession life and cost of living life and technology and the opportunities we now have there.
The flip side is if you're unable to be there in person, you have different ways of communicating instantaneously. You can speak your thoughts out. You can work remotely. It is such a weird thing. I mean, I have to believe at the end of the day, whether we stay here or not, I have to believe that, or hope at least, that if you have good talent that excludes you, but hopefully like you just have to pick the right projects. And I think that is the pickle when you live not in one of the big places is as far as seeing people and being able to be like, let's do a meeting, or I've got a meeting, or let's go here or there. And it's the elbow rubbing that I think, the in-person elbow rubbing, which right now you can't do anyway. So you know, it goes back to what you're saying. I mean, times they are a changing. That is definitely. I was actually on the phone with a director buddy of mine earlier today, and we were talking about the same thing. So
I'll never be surprised if this answer almost always gets this response. But would you want to do more, filmmaking or advertising?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely filmmaking.
Yeah, it probably almost always will be. That question may get retired eventually.
Right. I mean, I think that question might flip when you're like, oh man, I'm so tired of like doing that. I just want to make easy money.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what the future holds? There's been some really great stuff that has come out that I feel like longer form commercial work is interesting. You know, like especially video games. I mean,
oh my gosh, man. I love PlayStation commercials. Before that, Xbox had a hot streak, but PlayStation commercials have been wonderful.
They are cinematic filmmaking. Like they are taking their time. They are doing the work. They're making some crazy shit. And it's great. So, you know, I think like that's that world. I think that's that middle ground, right? Like that's filmmaking, but within an advertising space.
That's good. I'm glad you said video game commercials, because those are the only ones that I ever hear, and I'm like, oh, and I like light up over them. I won't say mine, because my answer to this next question actually is a video game commercial. But do you have a favorite commercial?
Some of the Far Cry stuff, and then one of those Tom Clancy ones that Khalid shot. They're in the jungle. It's epic. It is it feels, you know, I want to watch more of that. Other than that, I remember there was this Bernie Sanders like kind of branded documentary back in 2016. Where it was like, it was about people that were immigrants, but that did, work hard and all that. And it resonated with me because it visually was stunning and it told a good story that had heart. And that one stuck with me for a long time.
Yeah, man. Well, I know this is kind of, since we're talking film and commercials, but how'd you get in? Like, how'd you get into the industry?
I basically found out that if I was a journalism major in college, I could get a free scholarship if I worked for the newspaper. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So I switched majors like my fourth year of college. And at the same time, I was like playing music and I was in a band, and that was the plan. It was like, let's go make music and, let's tour. And so I lived in a van for like 2 years, like just on the road. And when I wasn't doing that, I was like building things for like different companies. And I basically, from all over the Southeast, I drove around and they would send these pallets to these Walmarts. Every Walmart I hit was like a paycheck. So I was like trying to do as many as possible. And then in 2006, Katrina hit. I go through New Orleans. It is apocalyptic. It is probably one of the weirdest experiences that I had driving through there. There's just fire everywhere. It is weird. I get in the middle of nowhere in some parish in South Louisiana. I call the guy up, my boss, and I was like, hey, there's no Walmart here anymore. Like it was gone, just wiped off. And he was like, okay, well, just say that you did it and just keep going. It's just like, so I did that kind of stuff for a couple years, and then the band fell apart. That job went away. Some other stuff happened. And so I moved to Birmingham because my brother lived here. And a buddy of mine was working as a camera guy on like a cooking show. And he was like, hey, do you want to come in and make like $150 a day? And I was like, $150? I was like, what do you mean?
That's good money when you're not working, right?
Yeah, it was good money when you're sleeping in your car and eating out of trash cans. Like, you're like, yeah, this sounds great. He basically got me in as a PA. I was sweeping floors and doing coffee runs. And I did it for a bit. And then I just started looking around at the lighting and the different kind of stuff. I just asked questions. I watched and listened, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And I remember, my parents, about 6 months after I got into it, they were like, what are you doing? You need to go take an LSAT. You need to go to law school. And I was like, I don't want to be a lawyer, but I'll go take your test. And I did, but I did it hungover on purpose. So I was like, if I can pass this hungover, then maybe I'll do it. And I failed terribly. And I was like, I guess I was like, I really think what I'm doing, I think I got it. I think this is something so I just kind of started as a PA and, I was probably 2 or 3 years in the business, and then the recession hit. So then it was like starting all over again. And it's just kind of been, it's kind of that. So that's really, I got into it and I was really like, I love this idea of what a director of photography is. He's this guy that he's telling a story visually. He's using lighting to convey a mood or a feeling. It was like all the shitty jobs that I had, all the terrible life choices I made crafted me and my brain in a way where working in film production was a perfect fit.
Yeah, because the traveling wouldn't have bothered you by that point, compared to like some people we've seen when you travel on set and stuff. They're like, what are these chicken tenders? I can do better.
Yeah, they freak out. And then, it's like playing music, like it's like you travel for 6 hours to do a 30-minute set. And you're like, oh, yeah, I get that. Like I work for 6 hours for 30 seconds of footage, so it's a lot of those things kind of just translated well for my brain. And I mean, it was fun. I got to dress how I wanted to dress. I could hang out with people that had interesting senses of humor and story, weird stories to tell. So it just made sense. It just fit. And it was like the first time in a long time, I just felt like, oh shit, I think I can do this. And it's a challenge, a mental, there's constant puzzles. It's a constant challenge. And that was a way that kind of it just clicked.
You were such a good key grip. I was scared of you.
Yeah, I get that. I got that a lot. Yeah, I mean, I think it's.
But it was a respect thing. It was just because you were taking care of the grip department so well. Like you managed them so well, and I was like, oh man, that's what a key grip looks like. Do you feel better as a DP because of all of that G&E experience?
Well, I think, to answer your question in the short term, yes, 100%. I wanted to learn in a way that made sense to me. And I was like, okay, I know that you can go through camera. I know you can go to film school. It's too late for me. I'm not going to school. I'm going to learn on the job. I'm going to be do an idea of a journeyman. At the end of the day, it just made sense to pursue that route. And the reason I pursued the grip side versus an electric side was I felt like for me, it was like, okay, if I come from the grip side, I understand what light does and how to control it more. I understand rigs that take time. I understand camera movement. I just wanted to learn from kind of more of being close to it, how a cinematographer works. And by going that route, I saw okay, if an 18K comes in here and then we put 250 in front of it and then we diffuse it again with a 6x light grid. Okay, this is kind of what the pattern is, and this is what the light does, and how the light spreads, and what's the difference between doing that, and and what's your personal what's my taste? What do I like? Do I think that's a good idea? And how do I work within that? And really kind of it was just this idea of learning in a way that made sense to my brain. It just made sense to me to move in that way. To go that route. And it was also kind of a natural route too. I just kind of kept happening and kept happening. And when someone asked me to be a DP on that first job, I was like, yeah, absolutely. I don't think, I think when opportunity comes, you have to attack it. You have to basically, especially in this business, I don't think you get a lot of opportunities more than once. And there's, with something this was my goal, my dream. And I had been doing it for 10 years. Towards that dream, and 10 years of working on big features, working on small features, working on big commercials, small commercials, music videos, everything that I could do just to learn and work under incredible DPs, some pretty big ASC guys, and just learning from their gaffers, from their key grips, from everyone. And then when that opportunity came, I was like, there's a good chance that if I turn this down because I'm not ready, I will potentially never get this call.
Man, that's good.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. That's probably pretty helpful to a lot of people because I know I don't. Yeah, I lean towards the safe side pretty often, but that's good. Do you have a specific process that you think is what's notable that's worth sharing about your now I know when I say process that means a huge thing. So I guess maybe do you have anything that just you like to do in your development and pre-pro and then shooting process?
I tend to not at this point in my career, and it could change, but I tend at this point in my career to ask a lot more questions about whys or hows versus looks. I prefer to ask, like, how do you want it to feel? If I can hear how you want it to be, it's a lot easier for me to translate that than if you said, here is 6 images that I want it to look like. Because those images are built on different things and different ideas and different emotions and feelings that someone has. And so for me, I'm like, tell me, do you want it to feel like your first kiss? Whatever, like that idea of like, give me something.
No, that's cool. That's a good example.
So the idea of connection and reaching across and trying to bridge that gap between audience and story. And so I think for me, that's what I always try to look at is I want to hear the heart of what you're trying to say and let me try to find that experience in my life and how I can communicate that visually. And then we can talk together about that. And a lot of times, like we might draw storyboards once we've kind of gotten past that point, like what are your, generalization? I don't really talk about camera systems or lenses. Like that to me is anamorphic, spherical, like that's later down the line. For me, I just want to get a sense of how do you want it to feel? Like, what do you want people to feel from this? Like, what's your connection with it? Like, that's the starting block for me. I over communicate. I want to talk a lot about it. I don't think there's such a thing as being annoying. I just want to know, I just want to like explore and discover with that person. Another part of my process is I try as much as possible to bring in my gaffer, my key grip, and my first day. I want to bring in a team or a core that works well with me, that I trust, that know like when we're on set, and I ask for something kind of weird or I don't ask for anything, they don't question it in a way of like, are you sure? They're like, okay, cool, copy that. And I think it goes back to that original conversation of like, how do you want it to feel? Do you want it to feel this certain way? And that's also translated visually. I would want to hear their heart. And then I want to try to see if I can figure out if their heart and my heart work together, kind of like, It's like you're dating via a treatment and trying to figure out if it makes sense. I'll preface, I'm not a dick. I love my job. I love the people I work with, but I just ask people to be very focused because we're there. People are paying us money to be there. It's a privilege, but we're not, and I know we're not saving lives. I know that we could be doing other stuff, but there's something I'm just like, look, if we're going to be there, let's just be focused. Let's just try to hone in and really think about like this thing. And if we can do that, and that's one thing I do love about film is that film kind of requires that craft, that respect. And it requires respect to be.
So do you mean shooting on film or just filmmaking in general?
Yeah. Like shooting on celluloid is just a craft from it encompasses a little bit of, you have to respect it because it's so finite. It is tangible, physical, you can hear it. And there's something about that makes people kind of, it's like because it's analog, other things that in the peripheral become analog too. Like you just, in my experience, like you're not worried about your phone as much. You're really just kind of more in that world and you're just kind of focused.
I would assume that the people who have more at stake in the project would appreciate that.
Well, I really hope so. I mean, I've seen, there are people out there that like, I am amazed by how much they like show off their sets. And I think it's not like a place of like, how dare you? It's a place of like, how can you? Like, I literally can't, maybe I don't have that in my brain where I can like switch it off and do this and then come back. Like, I just kind of like, I think Deakins talks about like, he's almost always throwing up his first day of shooting.
Whoa, I never heard that.
Yeah, he's always super nervous. And I totally get that because it's a weird thing, especially from my background and how I got in it. Like it's always felt there. It's stable, but it's also very fragile. You know what I mean? Like I know at any moment, like I'm only as good as the thing that I do right now. So like I would say most of the times, first day of a job, I don't usually sleep. I have to like listen to music and like kind of like find my happy. I think that happens to a lot of creatives. I think mentally, like we have to have like a good mental health, stay in it and be positive.
What's a common misconception about the industry? And by industry, let's try sticking to commercials.
A common misconception about the industry, I would say that commercials are easy comparatively.
You're saying that's the misconception, is people think that they're easy because they're shorter?
Yes. Yeah, like that it's not as hard. Or that
I can totally agree with that. Yeah. I thought when I've been in it like 3 years now, and I thought, oh, this will be such a cool side gig that floats all the fun things that I really want to do. It'll just be easy peasy. I had no idea that it takes like up to 9 months to do a like several $100,000 commercial, which, as you know, isn't much, but it can still, if you're doing it all right, it can take like half a year.
I'd say that's another misconception, is that like, I think there's a huge misconception about budgets when it comes to commercials as well. Like, I don't know where that issue starts, but this idea of like, well, it doesn't cost that much money. Like, oh, it's a simple idea. And it's like, whoa. Like, and then, like if that's the conversation that starts before I'm even involved, or anyone else that knows money is involved, that's a big problem, because you've got like, and it happens a lot. Oh, it's a simple idea. And then you bring it in, you're like, guys, this is you want to do a oneer, like all this, like lockdown, extra. It's a huge undertaking. And I think like that misconception can definitely come from, not necessarily from within our industry, but within some industries where there's not an experience of like what it takes to make something beautiful. Or there's so many misconceptions, or like this idea of like, oh, the movie Seven, have you seen it? Can you make this look like Seven? And it's like,
yeah, of course.
I mean, what do you mean? It's just like that idea of, I think there's a lot of misconception in general about what it takes to make something beautiful, or what it takes to make something, period.
Do you wish anything was different about the commercial industry? Is there anything that comes to mind for that?
I mean,
I'm sure if we really hung out, like whiskey and cigar style, we could probably do a long list. But if there's something at the top of that list,
something I wish was different. I just wish that the expectations versus reality like was understood.
Oh, expectations from who?
Well, I'd say let's say for instance, so let's say you're going to make an indie horror feature that's being produced by a medium-sized production company. It's got some decent cast on there. And I feel like the hands in the pot, there are a lot less hands in the creative pot. So you're a lot more closer to the original idea than you were if you were at like a major studio who's going to, like Zack Snyder cut the whole deal, I think in the same way, sometimes working in the commercial world, you can have a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and that necessarily isn't always a good thing. And most of the times I think it's a detrimental thing to a product, mainly because you'll have a lot of people at Video Village. You have a lot of people that have a lot of opinions at Video Village, people that necessarily shouldn't even be weighing in on the creative process. But for whatever reason, they want to affirm their reasoning for being there. And I think that's something that it doesn't really bug me, but it kind of does, because it's kind of the same idea of like, well, I don't necessarily go to your office and like hover over you while you're doing your job. Like you guys have already done the work. You've relegated it to this director, and this director has delegated it to the production designer and to me, or the art director and me, and then we've delegated, and so it's just like, if you're having those conversations now, or you're nitpicking over like if a candelabra is in the right position, sometimes it's just kind of feels like, why are we having this conversation now? Or why are you talking? Because I don't know if you're not creative. So, I mean, there are more things I could probably say, but it's just that I definitely think that's a frustrating element to it. Is a lot of times Video Village can be a problem and not a solution.
If you had any advice for a college student, or in fact, since even that's kind of a waning requirement for anybody just starting out in the industry today, let's just assume that 2021 is going to be our year. And that
right. Yeah.
Let's assume we have a clean slate in 2021. Do you have any advice for someone who is starting out, or someone who wants to transition into the industry?
Go live your life. Don't just take pictures all the time. Like, yes, take pictures. Yes, do that. But like, don't walk around with your phone when instead you could put it down and experience the Grand Canyon. Take a really good picture. Don't take 1,000. Don't be afraid to just get in it. And also understand that know your rights as a worker, but also, so don't do stuff for free all the time. but also like, don't think that your value is more than it's worth. I think, first of all, I'd say there are some really great people that I know in this business that never went to college, that skipped college completely and started working in it when they're 16 or 17. And I didn't take that route. And a lot of times I look back at my collegiate experience and I go, why did I go to college? Like, what am I, I know why I did now, but if I could have gotten in the business when I was 20, like how much further I would be, career wise. So I think maybe that a little bit answers your previous question too. Like when I first started out, I wish that I would have cared more faster. I kind of flew around in the breeze for a bit until I was like, oh, now's the time to focus, instead of just farting around with my friends. That's really, I would say that was a lot of it.
Yeah, no, I definitely had days like that too, where I like on one of my first jobs in LA, I became friends with, everybody that I could, but being a PA, I had to work with every department. And this one kid worked in props. His name was Taylor, and he was cool. And he just kept showing up to set every day. For the first week with a different vehicle. And I was like, Taylor, where are you getting all these cars? And he was like, they're mine, man. I was like, how? And he was like, just props money, man. Just save my money. And I was like, what's your rate? And I was like, how old are you? He's like, oh, I'm 21. And he's like 21. He had a motorcycle, a truck. He had just bought a Tesla. He was like, you should get one, man. They're really great. And I was like, yeah, I was like living in a closet in LA. Yeah. Right, but no, and I asked, it had nothing to do. It's just that he started out right away. He just didn't bother with college and he just started working right away. And when you're getting a union rate, like right away, that's it. Yeah.
That's a lot of, I think even like when I first got in and someone was like $100, $150 a day, I was like, oh, so much money. It's really more about just like focus. And I tell guys a lot, guys younger than me, and I'm like, listen, if you can focus and like do it, like you're going to be better. You're going to be better at my age than I am right now because you've got a better head start. You're just in a different world. I guess maybe our experiences are different, but everyone's experiences are different, but like that is a good place to be.
Do you have like a personal motto or mantra or anything? Do you have like a thing you like to say to live by?
I'd say I have two. One is it'd be faster if we wait.
That's it. It'd be faster if we wait.
It would be faster if we wait. And the second is like, until the world gives you a red light, just consider they're all green lights. Go until you get a red light. And that's kind of how I've gotten to where I've gotten.
Nice. I like both of those. I have to write those down.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you maybe would want to include?
It's a weird time right now to be a creative in this environment. And I think, it's people talk about like, oh, I'm doing all this. Like, I can't wait, King Lear, Shakespeare wrote King Lear during the plagues.
Wait, you're seeing people say stuff like that?
Yeah. I've read that kind of stuff. And the reality is, context, there were plagues all throughout Shakespeare's life. So it's not like he probably did a lot of writing during a lot of plagues, but that's a caveat. I would say there's that side and there's the other side where I haven't done anything. And I think ultimately it's about your mental health. What's good for you? What is a good way for you to focus? I've done a lot of focusing on myself, tried to put the phone and the cameras down and just experience life. It's the first time this first time since I've been in this business where like the idea of my identity isn't necessarily wrapped in what I do, but more of like who I am. I'm not Sean Kirby, a director of photography, because no one's making anything right now. I'm just Sean Kirby, like friend, son, father, husband, brother. I feel like we've lived in this idea of an era of productivity. I am a product. I can move units. I can do this. I can do that. But at the end of the day, when you strip all that away, then we're here and we're like, oh shit, am I just an empty shell? Like, who am I? And I think that's the thing I'm saying is finding out that person. Like, find out who you are. And I think that will actually help influence your art and help find that voice better.
Thank you. I really appreciate that because, it's kind of been like that for me too. It's like the train came to an immediate stop.
Yeah.
And it takes, I would say, a few weeks to come down from that. And I didn't even realize until recently. It's not really tangible, but at some point I kind of realized, I was like, oh man, I've been uploading stuff to Instagram to let everybody know where I am in life for probably since I was like 23 years old. And nobody cares. Why did I think that was important? Like, why did I think it was like important that people knew I was still doing well? And even I knew that. I'm one of the people in my friends where I actually like kind of hate Instagram because I hate that everyone does that. And even I was doing it in my own way because I was like, well, I don't post pictures of myself shirtless. I'm better. I'll just post pictures of my work or something. But even that's a version. It's related to the work. So now that the work's been taken away, I'm like, oh my gosh. What's the best way to approach you? Where can people find you?
The main way is on Instagram, the Kirby. And then I also have a website, SeanPatrickKirby.com. Those are pretty much the only way you can find me if you don't know where I live.
Yeah.
Because I don't have Twitter anymore.
You don't want to be on Twitter right now?
The hellscape, the echo chamber that is Twitter just wears me down. So,
well, thanks, man. Appreciate that. I'm going to wrap us up. At least on the recording. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed our third episode of Filmmakers and Advertising, and thanks for coming back. Relevant links from today's episodes can be found in the show notes. If there are any other questions you'd like to hear me ask our guests, or if you just want to get a hold of us, reach out to us on our Facebook or Instagram pages, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. From Cry, a production house in New York City, I'm Cody, and this is Filmmakers and Advertising. Okay, see you next time. Bye!